So like for the kids, you invite some of their friends over. For yourself, you have some of your friends over. We all do the countdown together, and you just try to keep it upbeat as you possibly can. So nobody's brain is racing, and nobody's really thinking about what the other person's going through. That's it.
And that is now the interesting thing to me about that though is such a common response is we try not to think about things that are not pleasant for us, but there was something going on though. The sadness was real. The sadness was there, and the sadness was, I'm sure, in your kids as well as it was in you, but it wasn't freely discussed. So then you just keep it, and I want people listening to this to think about when you run into somebody on the street or you work with somebody and they in a bad mood and they woofing at you for something. It could be that. It usually is something that don't have nothing to do with you in the first place. Yep. But I'm just saying, just in general, right? But think about if we look at the number of people in America who are incarcerated and how many families that affects, how many literal people that touches every day who are living with that, whether it's the birthday, whether it's Easter, whether it's like in the Latino community, today is Three Kings Day, right? Whether it's Three Kings Day and you're not here to celebrate, or what Christmas for, Halloween for the kids, whatever those days are, Mother's Day, Father's Day, I know they're huge. Certainly Mother's Day and Father's Day, I don't know, it wasn't as big. Men don't get the same kind of outpouring of love and affection that is generally given to women. They just don't. They just don't.
But you do send cards and pictures.
Okay.
And stuff like that. You like, okay, I hope you call today so he can hear them say Happy Father's Day. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I said, you always try to keep everything at right here to make sure everybody is right here. One might go farther down, the other one I might go up a little bit, but you try your best to keep it at a surface level where everybody can stick together.
So in other words, also brings it to mind, so that says to me, you're trying to maintain a level of calm or a level of comfort, and that sounds like such a delicate balance because you got different people with different responses that are feeling different ways, and as your kids grow and age, their need for their other parent changes. So now they really have different needs. So them being absent at that time also makes it worse. So that's interesting because just know, if you're listening, that it matters and that there are people that are going through things. I think I've said before that when I was a part of the Mayor's Crisis Response Team, for example, when kids had parents, you mentioned earlier in our discussion prior to going on tape, that dealing with the kids and understanding. And so when you have one who somebody had just had their house raided, one of the kids. Well, when we were a crisis response team, we were dealing with people who, families, we were literally on scene when the body was still on scene. You experienced it, right? I actually got the call, unfortunately, when her daughter was murdered. And when I pull up on scene, I realize, that it was their daughter. But anyway, when we're doing that, the one thing that they did start doing was notifying the counselors at LAUSD that this child, there's been some trauma in the family, so that people are aware that something happened in that kid's life.
They actually don't do that.
No.
Yes, they don't notify.
No.
Well, the crisis response team will notify the counselor's office. We can't say what's going on after that. But the crisis response team, I know we would do it for sure. That was just part of our process. And so what the counselors do with it is up to them. But chances are nothing. And I don't doubt that for a second. But people are in crisis, and when children are in crisis, they respond in a variety of ways. And what happens is that they may be fine for today, but in a month from now when they start acting out,
Yeah.
or in 3 weeks from now when they're not turning in their assignments anymore, or they're unable to concentrate, there needs to be something that is put on some attention is paid to them, and some slack that's given to them that may help.
Basically, I just kind of went through that when I got Wanda's kids, because she was murdered. So, when I first get them, they're very quiet. They're not talkative. They're not anything in that kind of nature. School started. We get them to school, and everything like that. Everything is going. I'm taking them to counseling, but kids are very smart than what people sometimes give them credit for. Even though the ages people think, oh, at this age, they didn't know. They're very smart. Now, when we go to the counseling place, and Jacob, some days he want to go and talk, whatever. Haven, she's going to want to talk no matter what. She just likes the attention no matter how. Because first of all, you got to remember, they're in the room, it's just them. She loves that. Jacob, you got to get started a little comfort zone, be okay. But Taurus, never. Never. The whole time she sits there like this.
And that's the difference in how people process grief and loss. And we have to, as family members of society, we need to make room for each one of those various ways that people do that. And when it shows up in different ways, not badger and what's wrong with you and why you don't, why you can't be like the other one.
Yeah, you never say those words.
Right? Because I can only process it how I can process it. Right? So there's these, in society we want everything to be cookie cutter and everything to fall in line the way that, the way that we have it set up, and that's just not human nature. People just are not, we don't function like that.
With Taurus, I would always go back there with her because of her face. Like I remember I was saying how everybody can't connect with a child. Doesn't matter your job.
No,
it doesn't matter. You can't. They can't. So someone would get frustrated because she would always have that face. That's just her face. And then she would turn to me like, I can talk to you, okay, but you gotta talk to me. Of course, I'm gonna talk to you, but you gotta learn how to, you gotta learn how to talk to other people too.
And sometimes it's really like the approach. Like what I learned, like even dealing with my own self, my own problems, it's easier for me to help others because I know like it's the approach factor. Like like some kids you don't have to be straightforward and be like, so your mom passed, or or whatever the case may be. Like they dealing with that reality every day they wake up. So maybe start with something like a puzzle or anything like that. Or sometimes they too smart for that. Like I'm not finna play this puzzle game. Like what's up? Like what you coming to talk to? Like you gotta gauge the kid, and I feel like not enough times, or not a lot of times, people don't gauge the person they're trying to help. Like
she went through like 3 counselors there.
Yeah,
and that's the difference is you have to, just because they're licensed, certified, whatever on a piece of paper, doesn't mean that they are actually going to be good at their job. We have people who are not good at their job. If you ever been to a restaurant and the food was real good and you went back and it's like, ooh, this don't taste the same. Oh, the chef is gone. That's a new chef. Duh. Everybody ate the same. He got the same recipe, but he don't put it together the same.
Right.
So there's the need to understand that people have more than one way to process information and more than one way to help themselves to feel better. And some people need a little bit more time. I have 2 granddaughters born by the same parents. One of them is the kind, she needs to warm up to you first. Don't run up on her. But then once she does warm up to you, you can't, that kind of thing. This younger one, I'm observing her, and she'll be a year old, but I'm observing her, and she's the kind, you look at her, she goes. The older one, I have friends, I put up a picture. I got her had her at my house. She must have been about 8 months, and I have a picture of me and her, and I actually had her smiling. I posted the picture, and one of my friends' comments was to my son, "I didn't even know your baby actually smiled." because she wasn't. You didn't rush up on her and get no.
Yeah.
No, you had to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
She checking you out. She like looking at you. You know what I'm saying? Looking at her parents, like looking what's the vibe? Or is this person cool or whatever? You didn't, she wouldn't, do this, but she'd be like, or she might run behind her dad. This one here though, the little one, she smile at you right away or whatever, but she don't like being bothered that much. So in other words, she's the kid that you put her in her little seat and let her play with her toys and leave her alone.
Yeah.
So you got two people born in the same source.
Mm-hmm.
They come from the same place, right? They 2 years apart. But this one is not gonna warm up, but then you got her. This one, she gonna give you a smile at first, but she ain't fooling with you like that.
But that's the point of society needs to understand.
Yes. Everything ain't the same.
Yeah, because like Tuesday, I went out and I'm always speaking. That's just something I like to do. It doesn't bother me like that. So as I'm walking inside the restaurant, I'm like, hello. It says everybody. And I went on in and I'm waiting for my table. And the man, he ran in there. Of course, I froze because I'm talking about why you running up on me. So I'm like, yes. He was like, I just want to come and tell you thank you for speaking. He's like, you got a good spirit, I can feel it, but I really appreciate that because the pandemic, everything going on, everybody's so cranky, everybody's so angry, everybody just, just everywhere now. He was like, I just really appreciate you speaking today. I'm like, welcome, but if everybody just relax, we can't change nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We can't change it. But walking around here mad ain't gonna get it either.
Mm-hmm. Right, when tragedies happen, you can't.
And can I say something a little bit about just how in our community, the one thing I noticed my entire time in LAPD was within our community, I watched grief and emotion get conditioned out of people.
Yes.
Like no matter what crime scene I went to, and I always found it horrible, I'd pull up, it's a dead body on the street. It's a 2-year-old standing there with half the people talking about retaliating.
Mm-hmm.
Some people crying, some people eating. Dude's one step away, got his music on, dancing, and these kids are standing there. And when we come up, nobody's, hey, we saw what happened.
No.
Everybody's just standing there. As soon as you start asking questions, everybody leaves, right? But I never once saw in 15 years somebody shield this kid, take them away from there.
No.
Move them, talk to them. It was all the histrionics and energy of
whatever it was.
They just shot this motherfucker. Let's go do stuff. And the one thing I learned in the military when they were trying to teach me how to kill people was they had to remake the way God made us. We're not designed to kill people.
No.
Not designed to watch a dead body. Not designed to get involved in violence.
No. Right.
But the one thing they did was strip away our humanity. So then they could say to us, but you can kill him.
Right. And they also stripped away the humanity of the person that you were killing. They had to strip them of humanity also.
Right.
They became a terrorist, any number of other terms.
You had to make him other.
You had to other the person.
And I understand why.
Of course.
Kids respond to grief differently, and as I watched it, the more and more I watched it, there was one time here in Southeast, in July, we had 321 homicides on the board in 10 square miles in July. I was at a crime scene, 89th and San Pedro, Brac, 87th and San Pedro. I'm standing at the crime scene, 5 police officers, 2 detectives, a couple of deputies pulled up, block and a half away.
Didn't stop them from shooting 2 blocks away, huh?
The kids ran down to look. Not one parent.
That's the thing.
Not one parent stopped them.
Yeah, everybody's being stripped from what's inside of you, what you feel.
So to me, it didn't really matter if you had a counselor or all these people trying to interject, because you got to get back into that child's humanity.
Yes.
All the talking at them, they don't. To me, and this is just my opinion. To me, it didn't matter what you were saying, because you're talking at them from this macro view. You got to sit that child down and say, hey, that's not normal. The next time you see that, shield your eyes, go away.
Yes.
Go find your mom.
Don't stand and
Go
look.
find your dad.
Right.
You should not see that. To this day, my son's 13.
Mm-hmm.
When I catch him watching something that's inappropriate,
Right.
I check it.
Stop it. Yes.
What are you doing? Get your ass over here. Like,
And it's that.
I want to try to maintain his innocence.
It's
Now, he
okay.
knows the world is,
Yeah.
is
Sure.
rough. And
Yeah.
he knows all the
Sure.
stories because I told him everything. But he also knows you can graduate to that when it's your time. Right now, all I need you to do is go to school, wash your ass when it's dirty,
Thank you.
and
Please.
do your homework
Right.
and mind me.
But the society we truly do live in, kids do be going to school, they're minding their business, doing what their parents tell them to do, but then you do have the kids that's outside and something tragic does happen to them. So now you have a child that my friend passed away. You have children, like I told my son his first time he went to a funeral, I was like, I never went to a funeral as a kid
Mm-hmm.
of a friend of mine, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I never even heard of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I went to older people funeral that was in your family or
Right.
somebody your mama knew, just stuff like that, but not somebody I went to school with.
Yeah.
That
A
was,
peer.
yeah, that was
And-
really different.
And what it says to me too is, in society, period, because we are discussing the effects of incarceration, it is another way that the system others people who have been incarcerated, and prosecutors go in and they start telling these stories and creating these versions of this person as, you know, they always dehumanize them. They always make them a monster in order to get a conviction, because it desensitizes juries to the humanity of the person that they're about to pass judgment on. And so it allows them, and listen, let's be clear, there's some folks out there need to be dehumanized because they already not functioning as humans. Don't get me twisted, okay? Some folks need to stay locked up for life, for real, okay? I'm not discounting that, but that's a very small number of people. That's a very small number of people. And the number of people who are incarcerated for these really long sentences for things that just don't make sense. It don't make sense, and it's destructive in its way. And so the dehumanization process needs to stop all the way across the board. But I want to give you a chance, if you don't mind, to talk about what it was like when New Year's came, when you were inside versus being outside now.
For me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sleeping midnight.
Okay,
Everywhere.
didn't matter.
With the earplugs in.
I didn't even need influence. I just get at a certain time of night, I go to sleep. I went to speak when she was saying about the, like Father's Day and holidays calling home. One thing that happens for the women in incarceration is because women are always attuned to men. The people that are keeping the children is not the same because they're busy taking care of the children. So the children don't even get to write a lot. They don't get to see their mothers a lot because it's almost like a hardship when they're caring for them. And when I was in Dublin, it was almost like they had to take vacation to bring the kids to visit. It's a 6-hour ride from LA. Then they have to stay in hotels. And it's mostly older people that have kids. So it was like not all the time. Local people came and saw their families. But the ones out of LA, they didn't get to see their families. But when I was in Danbury, Connecticut prison, they had a place called Our Place in DC that used to bring the DC girls' kids. Because most of the DC girls' mothers were dead from drugs or AIDS. So they were there, people had their kids, and those people would just charge like I think it was $35. They get a room, and have the kids, feed them, and let them see their mothers and take them back home. And if it wasn't for them, they would never saw their children.
Wow. And just, so just